Welcome back to another episode of Thriving in Love, the podcast that challenges traditional gender norms so you can create a unique love story that works for you and your authentic selves. I'm your host, Sana Akhand, and I am an intuitive love coach, a speaker, and a writer. I help couples break free from patterns so they can get out of survival mode and start thriving in love. Today's episode is really exciting because there has been so much information out there on the topic of boundaries. I want to talk about how we can use the power of boundaries to create better, healthier, more fulfilling relationships that we want to keep in our life. So let's dive in. First things first, I want to get you to think outside of the box that boundaries are something that we use to keep people out and we use to divide us between others. What boundaries can do is create a safety net and a safe space, a sense of respect and dignity within your relationships. Creating these boundaries can actually cultivate a deeper connection. And when we set boundaries and when people honor our boundaries, it actually helps us love them more and it helps them love us in a way that we want to be loved too. So when people honor your boundaries, it is a sign of respect. And that can create a really authentic connection that builds love. We're both in this together to make this work. We're not being disrespected or insulted by these boundaries. We are learning how we can bring two totally different worlds together in a harmonious way. The most important thing about setting boundaries in a healthy relationship is learning how to have open and honest conversations. When we set boundaries, it doesn't need to be because we're angry or we're frustrated. It could truly be because of self-care or things that we need for our business or our creativity or our hobbies, and learning how to create that space within our own worlds against our husbands, our families, our children, our friends. I like to say that when we create boundaries with the people that we love, it's because we want to have a better relationship with them, not a worse relationship with them. Not because we want to keep them out of our life, but because we kind of want to show them who we are outside of our relation to them. When we are able to tap into creating a life for ourselves that we love, that we really cherish, that we have cultivated after years and years and years of being in autopilot and survival mode and living for everyone else but yourself, you're gonna hit a point in your life that you're never gonna want to go back to that burnout mode or to that survival mode. And you're going to be able to create a beautiful, harmonious life for yourself that is rooted in your authentic self. So for example, I know now that at least twice a week, I need to take a bath. I need to have complete silence and solitude for at least an hour or two twice a week. I remember in the beginning when I first started doing this, my husband used to come in and tell me something that was not urgent. And I was just sitting there and I was like, wow, I need to set a boundary. Instead of getting upset with him for disturbing my bath time, which is something I never communicated with him before, how is he supposed to know that when we went from doing everything together all the time to now me needing solitude and peace to the point that he cannot come and disrupt that peace? I needed to learn how to communicate that in an open and honest way without hurting his feelings. So I truly think that there is an entire art to setting healthy boundaries with the people that we love. And once you get out of the mindset of, oh my gosh, I'm going to hurt their feelings, oh my gosh, I'm not going to be able to communicate this properly, practice. What I do is I'll journal and let out all of my frustration and be like, oh, I just want alone time, blah, blah. What we would originally say in a trigger, jot it down in a journal. Then read it and sit with it and say, you know what? Maybe there's a better way to approach this. So then you go back and it's kind of like you're working through a rough draft. It's like a book. You're never going to put out your first draft. Your first draft is not going to be what becomes a bestseller. Before you set that boundary with your partner, create that space beforehand to practice how you're going to communicate this boundary. and how you're going to have that open and honest conversation. And then you'll feel really good about it. Instead of pride, you're going to have strength. You're going to be able to speak your truth without being triggered by your emotions or your ego. Back to my story about the bathtub, I was like, this one instance is fine, but I'm gonna need to practice how I'm going to communicate this with him without hurting his feelings. When I journaled, I let it all out, and I realized that it's actually really simple. I could literally just say, hey babe, when I'm in my bathtub, I really get into flow and get into a meditative state, and I can't be disturbed because it pulls me out of my meditation. Unless it's an absolute emergency, do you mind if you just don't interrupt my bath time? And he was like, oh my gosh, of course. Like, I didn't know that your bathtub time was like that, because for him, when he takes a bath, he's just scrolling on his phone, not really doing the meditation that I'm doing. Once I communicated that, it makes it so much easier, because he's like, oh, okay, I get it. Like, you're in your zone, you're doing it for a purpose, you're doing your thing, of course. You don't need an excuse to be able to set that boundary either. Like, I literally could have just been like, hey babe, bath time is for me to just take the entire world out of my mind and just connect with myself. Do you mind not disturbing me during that time? Of course, no problem. Unless it's an absolute emergency, right? Like, of course, once we have healthy boundaries, he'll know like what's worth disturbing me for and what's not. Once you guys are cultivating this relationship, it makes it easier. And now I want to go into setting boundaries with family. So for a long time, I used to go to my sister or my mom for all my problems and my relationship problems, and just like vent about my marriage to my family. And I realized that they don't know my husband the way I do. And when we talk all about the bad, they think it is all bad, and they don't know how good it is on the other side, because as humans, it's human nature to talk more about our problems than it is to talk about our good times. Because for some reason, I think that humans are just scared that they're bragging, which is ridiculous, because I think that we should be spreading more joy and happiness in this world and not just our problems. But that's besides the point. For the sake of this conversation, I want to reiterate the fact that your problems with your husband should be reserved for safe spaces that are third-party spaces. So for instance, therapy, counseling, a coach. Definitely keep it away from friends and family. Like, they don't need to know what's going on in your marriage. If you're in like a really toxic relationship, or if you're feeling like your safety is being jeopardized, of course, tell someone that you love so they can get you out of that situation. This isn't about that. This is like something about your partner's bothering you, and you're just like complaining to your parents about it. And at the end of the day, whatever you gossip about is going to grow. So if you are talking about your problems that aren't that big, they're going to get bigger, because that's just the law of attraction. Our thoughts and feelings create our reality. So when you talk about your problems in your relationship, you're subconsciously manifesting more problems in your relationship, unless it's a safe space where that person, a therapist or a coach or a counselor, is there to work through these blocks. So when you talk about your problems to them, it's different, because they're coming at it with an angle of, okay, how can we help you get through this? Versus friends and family, even if they have the best intentions and well intentions, and they may have good advice, they're just too emotionally involved to give you an unbiased opinion on what to do and give you advice that is good for you. And also, the most important thing in making a relationship thrive is trusting your own gut and your own intuition, because the way to truly break free from this fake love that we've been conditioned to know into a real love that is rooted in universal truth is to go against all logic and trust your heart and follow your heart. That's the true test. That's the true journey of love. So when you are in that space of like sharing your problems with friends and family, that's coming from ego. You're going to be emotionally driven. It's not going to come from a place of rooted authenticity unless you work through your triggers and your trauma, and you work on healing all of those wounds that you have and letting go of this entire world that you have created around what love is and what it's supposed to be, and break free from society's definition of love and find your own universal truth of what love is for you. Back to boundary setting with our partners, we think that when you get married, you're supposed to bring two souls into one, and you end up doing everything together, and you sacrifice your individual needs and your individual identity in order to have your two worlds fit better into one world. So I want to challenge that, and I want to invite you into the idea that as humans are evolving, we're changing into this new world where humans are fully capable of getting out of survival mode and thriving as individual whole beings. So instead of two halves coming together to create one world, which is what marriage was up until now, we're actually creating now a partnership where two people are fully capable of their own entire worlds, responsible for their own mind, body, soul connection, and they're intertwining those two worlds to come together and enjoy these little moments where you touch points and hang out and you enjoy life together. But you still have like all this space for your own individual lives, your own identity, your own purpose, your own hobbies and interests and what have you. And you can merge them sometimes, but if you come too close with every single thing, you end up with a very closed heart and closed life, right? But if you open that up, look at how much space you allow into your life to grow and evolve and let your souls keep rising to higher and higher evolutions, right? So instead of keeping each other tethered down in this like closed space where you can't go anywhere, you allow yourselves to grow together and individually. And sometimes you may be like this, where one person is growing a little faster than the other one, but you're always going to be connected energetically, even if it's not in the physical connection. So your energies are always going to be there helping each other grow and thrive. You don't need to physically be your husband or your partner's coach or therapist or what have you. You truly can just focus on yourself and inspire them to rise and meet you there. So don't stay small and don't hold yourself back because you're scared that you may break that connection. Because when you have full trust in true love, you know that nothing can break that energetic bond between a mind, body, and soul connection. And that is when two souls connect through the heart, the purity of your heart. But a lot of us are in relationships where we are with the person for status or for our reputation or for money or for looks and our sexuality. And like, not to say that those things aren't important, but you need to be able to have a foundation of it being a true energetic connection so that if you didn't have any of that, would you still love this person? Would you still like this person? Would you still be friends with this person if they didn't have the money that they have, if they didn't have the looks that they have, if they didn't have the status that they have? Would you genuinely enjoy the person to the core of who they are? If yes, then you have nothing to worry about when you're growing and they may not be at the same rate, because you know that nothing can break you guys apart. You are energetically connected. So even if you guys may spend time apart physically, know that it's for your own individual purpose and you're not keeping each other tethered together just because of fear. That's fear. That's not love. The most important thing that I had to work on is not absorbing my husband's emotions. So as highly sensitive people, we can quickly read a room and sense if our partner is in a good mood or a bad mood. And then because we love our partner so much, we may drop everything or ask them how they're doing or what's going on or why they're feeling this way and end up feeling like we're responsible for making sure that our partner is always in a good mood. When in reality, that's not possible. And it's not your job to make sure your partner is happy. And you have bad moods too. You have bad moments too. And you don't expect your partner to lift you up. And if you do, then that's not thriving in love. That's survival mode. But when you are thriving in love, you know that you're responsible for your own emotions, and it is your responsibility to share your emotions with your partner once you have processed them, and you can share vulnerably and let them in on who you are deeper. But you can't rely on your partner to process your emotions for you or help you go from sad to happy or angry to happy or frustrated to feeling better. Yes, they are the ones that are responsible for making your emotions go to that state, but it's not their job to also fix those emotions. It's yours to understand, okay, why am I being triggered? What does this mean? What do I need from them? Okay, cool. I got the information that I needed. Now let me go to them and let them know, hey, when you did this, it made me feel like this. And that's how you can actually get through your problems and obstacles in a healthy way and communicate openly and honestly, versus if you communicate and expect the person to make you happy in the moment, you're always going to come at it and say, you did this and you made me feel like that and you're doing this wrong. And they're just going to get defensive because that's just human nature, and they're not going to be able to hear what you're saying because all they're going to be thinking is, how can I defend myself? Because you're pushing them into survival mode. So in order to get out of survival mode and into thriving in love, process your own emotions and communicate them in a calm, cool, and collected manner, and make sure you feel heard, seen, and valued, and make sure you are hearing their side too, and knowing and understanding that it's not you two against each other, it is you two against the problem. So when you come to a situation and say, man, they really frustrated me, they really made me angry, and I'm really, really upset, and I want to take it out on them, pause, reflect, pull back in, and say, why would I want to hurt the person that I love? I know they're not intentionally doing this to hurt me, so let me think about why I feel this way and how I can make sure that I'm creating enough space not only for my own emotions, but make sure that they feel heard about their own too. Trust me, like, I know how annoying it is to think like this and how hard it is, but once you do, that is how you truly connect with your partner. And it really takes your relationship to that next level where you both feel like you're supported and heard and seen emotionally without taking on each other's emotional baggage. I really do want to challenge the idea that boundaries are set in stone and that they need to be the way that they are forever. So I actually got an email literally last night from Dr. Alexandra Solomon, who is an expert in healthy relationships. What she said in this email was so, so beautiful. Relationships are a dynamic dance, and points of contact, aka boundaries, are always ripe with opportunities for flow or friction. Nothing is static. When you want more closeness, you need some space. That's too much. Give me more. Help me. I've got this. Boundaries are anything but black and white. They are contextual, relational, and ever-changing. Therefore, the best we can ever hope to do in a relationship is grant each other space in which each person can state, hey, you're in too close, or hey, where are you? I can't feel you. Relationships in which this kind of feedback can occur are brave, intimate indeed. And I love, 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 love this, because when I was first starting my journey in setting boundaries, I thought it had to be rigid and it's like this or nothing else. But sometimes we set boundaries to protect ourselves, and then we soften as we feel more safe in our own bodies, and things can move around. For instance, I used to say Monday to Thursday, I'm going to do my own thing, and I don't want to waste time watching TV during the week, because I was on a journey of finding my hobbies and my interests and what I like to do outside of work. But then once I realized, okay, I like sewing, I like cooking, I like what I like, I know who I am, I know what I'm doing. Now a Wednesday night TV night with my husband is not something that is a rigid boundary anymore. It's something that I can choose to do because I want to cuddle and watch TV on a Wednesday night. The less pressure we put on ourselves and the less we feel like we have to protect ourselves, and the softer that we get, the boundaries can change and evolve as that happens. We are ever changing, evolving human beings, and our boundaries are going to change and evolve with us. So let go of who you once were and the boundaries you once set, and trust that you are able to cultivate your own energy field and your own sense of self so that you can let more and more people in without feeling drained. So before we end this episode, I want to give you guys an exercise to take with your relationships, whether it's with a romantic partner or your family or your friends. I want you to create a list of your personal boundaries and share them with your person. Discuss how you can honor and support each other's boundaries, creating a safe and nurturing space for both of you to thrive. By engaging in this activity, I really do hope you guys are creating a unique love story that works for yourselves and your authentic self, and not taking things personally, and allowing each other to give each other the space to ask, okay, why do you need this? Versus feeling intimidated and offended that they need space from you. So once you start feeling like, oh my gosh, maybe they don't love me, they want space from me, that's your anxious attachment style being triggered and coming up, which is totally normal. But it's your responsibility to go and do that work and ask yourself, where are these anxious feelings coming from? And why am I telling myself a narrative that isn't true to the reality of my situation? My partner loves me, my friend loves me, my family loves me, and we all want to create a more peaceful, harmonious, and truly thriving relationship that works for our authentic selves. So why am I telling myself this story that them needing space away from me or needing time away from me is abandonment or is neglect or is because I'm not good enough and I'm not worthy? You need to cultivate that sense of worthiness and self-worth and confidence within you, knowing that boundaries are there to create stronger relationships so both people can feel happy and secure. And it is not the other person's responsibility to manage your emotions. It is your own. So once we get to that point, we can truly thrive in love. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode. It is one of my favorites. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you have a friend or a partner or someone struggling with boundaries, please share this episode with them and leave a review on Apple Podcasts. And I will see you next time.